Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jeannie and this is Get This Glowing, and in today's video we are going to be talking about the decade of the 1980s. I am going to be putting together this look for you using a brand that was available during the 80s. I'm going to be doing this with my very good friend Makeup Queenie, and we do this once a month. We have been doing this series since the first of the year called Makeup Through the Decades. And so if you would like to see how I got this look, even though I had a little trouble with the hair, then just keep watching. We're going to be getting into this look and how I got it in just a second. In today's video, I have got another installment of Makeup Through the Decades with my good friend Makeup Queenie. And if you have never been to Queenie's channel, that's Makeup Queenie. It's just Makeup Queenie68. It will be somewhere floating up here with a direct link to her channel. It will be in the description box, and at the end of the video you can just click on her bobblehead right next to mine to go straight directly over to her channel, or actually if you just click on her bobblehead, that'll take you right to her subscribe link. So she will be right there with me for just to click and subscribe onto her channel. But if you don't know about Queenie, she and I are really good friends. She is one of my BFFs in YouTube land. There is hair everywhere, if you can't already tell. So, by that statement, can you guess what decade we're in? That's right, the 80s. So she and I started at the beginning of this year doing Makeup Through the Decades, and we started with the 60s in January. Why we've done it this way, it was totally my doing. It was definitely not Queenie's, but for some reason I wanted to start with the 60s, and we are going to do 60s, then the 70s, 80s, 90s, then double back and pick up the 50s. I think I just wanted to start with the 60s because I love the decade of the 1960s. I am just a very big Twiggy, Biba, all of those. I'm just a 1960s girl. I'm just a very big fan of everything that happened during the 60s. This is the best tea ever, Gold Peak. I love it. It's not sponsored. Gold Peak Diet Tea is my favorite. I love, love, love this. It reminds me of Southern Real Brewed, and it even says it on there, Real Brewed Iced Tea. This is the best to me. I love it. I did my hair sort of the same way that I did it back then, where I just curled it on a curling iron and just took the curls and just pulled them apart and sprayed them. But because my hair was in very long layers, it made my hair much fuller back then, so it didn't really work, but I tried. So it just kind of looks like an old lady today. It looks really horrible. This is what I got, and I've got a lot of hairspray in it. And so that's reminiscent of the 80s. Anyway, I'm not feeling it, but that's what I ended up with my hair. It's not good. I have a very wide range of Maybelline products, and I just thought that we would dig in and dive in and use that in our look today. So if you want to see a look using Maybelline, a full face of Maybelline products, and talk a little bit about the events in the 80s, then sit back, grab your beverage of choice, and we're going to get started. I'll definitely just have to fix my hair at the end because that is definitely not working out for me. So yeah, we'll just fix that at the end. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to put a little bit of this Maybelline City Bronzer on. And I'm going to use this Sephora 99 Pro brush, and I really like the angle on this with this little tip for bronzer. This is a really nice color bronzer, and I have mine in 200. It's just a really nice neutral color. I really like the Maybelline Fit Me blushes, and this is number 40 Peach. And it looks like this. And this one has a little bit of a sheen to it, so I really like that. Just a nice summertime blush. So pretty on the skin. Let me get my mirror. Oh, that has such a pretty radiance to it. We were coming out of the 70s with Grease and a lot of blockbuster hits, Star Wars, things like that. This was really my decade. I was going into high school in 1984. So, you know, I was getting a little bit too big for my britches about this time. I was entering high school thinking that I ruled everything, and this was the time where skating rinks were really, really popular. Roller skating was the thing to do. Disco was really popular. Roller derby, roller skating. This was just all the craze, and this is what everybody, adults were doing it, and then it filtered down to skating rinks where, you know, it was a great thing actually for me, because everybody, all middle school children went to the roller rink. It was the thing to do. Friday and Saturday nights, that's what you did. That was the hangout. And you basically did this from about 6th grade until you had a car, until you could do something different. And so that would be about 10th grade. So you had basically your chance to get away from your parents, a chance to find a little bit of your own independence. You know, you took your skates if you had skates, and you just had to have your own skates. I mean, you really needed your own pair of skates. And I went, and so my dad was sort of, and I think about it, you know, and my parents were really, really gracious about this, because, you know, my dad would take the whole neighborhood down, and we did not live close to the skating rink. It was like 35 minutes away, maybe more. And he would take all the kids to McDonald's and treat, and then drop us off, and then, oh my goodness, if he wanted, you know, if I had to leave at 10 o'clock after the first round, oh, it was death. So he would let me stay until midnight and then come back down there and pick us up at midnight every single Friday night, and then turn right back around, and we'd go back on Saturday. And and he did this, you know, every single weekend. Oh my goodness. And, you know, I would never do that for my children. Oh my gosh. You know, because I would be too tired. But my dad did this every, you know, I know I went to the roller rink for like 3 years in a row. So, you know, that was that was my life. Oh my goodness. And, you know, God forbid that he say I couldn't go. Oh, it would have been, I would have died. That was my life. Oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to use some of the Maybelline Master Chrome. This is in 250. This is the one, the Nikki Tutorials, I believe, collab. This is the one I really love. And it's just to die for. So good. But yeah, you know, that was that was the thing to do. And I had a rule, you know, if I had have ever broke the rule, you know, that would have been it. And it was, you could not leave the roller rink. And a lot of kids did. A lot of kids would sneak out of the roller rink, and they would, you know, leave and go other places, and they would go to Food World, you know, the grocery store. You know, they would leave the roller rink and go make out and do stuff like that. You know, I never did. I promised my parents, you know, I was a really good kid. And I, you know, my daddy said I couldn't do that, and I didn't do it. I never left. So, you know, and I even worked behind the snack bar at the roller rink. You know, I was all about it. It's all about the roller rink. So, you know, technology was really on the boom during this time. You know, we had quite a bit of growth with the microcomputers were really starting to get big. Things were, you know, appliances, the microwave had, you know, come out, and, you know, that was a really big thing, you know, in the world, you know. Ooh, wow, you know, people started getting microwaves. Atari gaming systems had come out, and, you know, quickly the games, personal games, started becoming more and better and more available to you. And, you know, people would sit around and play, you know, you know, tennis back and forth on the Atari. So that was a really big thing. But TV became very, very big, because we went from having, you know, ABC, CBS, and NBC available in your home to all of a sudden cable network became available, and you could have all of these different channels available to you in your home. And this was huge, and my parents did not allow that. We never had cable at my house. We never had cable. I think I was in my 20s when my parents finally got cable TV, and it was so my dad wouldn't have to replace the outside antenna and get up on the roof and put up an outside antenna. And it was just basic cable. Basic, yeah, no movie channels whatsoever. So, you know, my parents absolutely would not go for that. So, you know, I was the kid that never had cable. Never. So I never knew what that was all about. You know, so whenever I would go over to my friend's house, oh my goodness, what I wanted to watch was Downtown Julie Brown on MTV. That was what I wanted to see. It was all about Downtown Julie Brown on MTV, if anybody remembers her. And I wanted to watch music videos. That's what I wanted to watch when I watched MTV. So that was what was the big, huge game changer to me in social TV. Was MTV. MTV changed everything. And then all of a sudden, you could see who was singing the songs. And I won't ever forget, you know, the first time that you started putting a face with the music, and all of a sudden, sometimes you didn't like the song anymore because you didn't like the looks, or the person singing it was so different than you had imagined, or maybe they made a weird face when they were singing a song that you liked, and so you no longer like that song anymore. I remember that happening several times where, you know, I would be watching someone for the first time sing a song that I loved, and all of a sudden, nope, don't like that song anymore. Moving on. So, so that was always so funny to me whenever that would happen. I'm like, you know, I love that song and now I don't like it anymore. Why did I have to watch this person singing it? Shut out in the comments if that ever happens to you. The 80s were very hard for me. That was a very hard decade to go through. I wasn't ready for it. I don't think I was prepared for all of the different changes that I was experiencing. Not only physically, because, you know, I was going through puberty, but just the world was changing so rapidly. I think, you know, anyone that was living during the 80s, I think they would say the same thing. Everything was just so fast, kind of like now. Everything is just moving at a very fast pace, but I think we're prepared for it. We're used to it. We're living in that fast pace, and I think that the 80s was the kickoff decade for that fast-paced life. I think that's really when that fast-paced life began, and really the world started changing from that kind of Norman Rockwell era that we had been used to into this more industrialized, technologically advanced time. It really started kicking off in the 80s. And so, you know, we had been living kind of a slow, you're sort of self-contained, kind of like this time of quarantine has been, you know, it's been very, very different. It's kind of been back to that almost time before technology was so rampant and you know, because things aren't open. You know, back when I was a child, you know, I remember going to the mall on a Sunday, and the only thing that was open was a cafeteria to eat at. That was the only thing that was open. There was no stores open. Everything was shut down because it was Sunday. And you didn't do business on that Sunday. And things have changed since then. So, you know, now it's kind of, you know, you're sort of feeling that slowdown, that things are slow. They're not open. During the 80s, Madonna, Boy George, Duran Duran, Billy Idol, David Bowie, all of these people had big musical influences during that time. And neon was very in during that time. And I honestly don't have neon palettes, or I would try a neon look for you today. But I am going to use this yellow shirt, and of course our music was on. And I have this cute little Profusion palette. It's a new one by them, and it's called Yellow Fusion, and I thought this was really cute because it's a little cassette tape. If you don't know what a little cassette track looks like, this is what it looks like. So I thought it was cute, and I thought I would use this with this yellow shirt as part of my look. But I'm not going to do the whole look yellow only, but I'm going to use some of this palette. But I did want to show you, this was what our music was on, which is a cassette track. And before that it was 8-track. I don't know if you've ever seen an 8-track tape player, but those were really big. We thought we were really doing something whenever we got cassette tracks. And so then in the 80s we got VCRs, and there were two types. There were VHS and betas, and you didn't really know which one was going to take off. One was beta and one was VHS, and you just sort of took a risk. You know, either you gambled on betas, you bought beta tapes, or you gambled on VHS and you bought VHS tapes. And we all know VHS went out and betas went to the wayside. I don't really even know what the difference was. But I do remember a friend of mine, they had a beta machine. I just remember that. But anyway, betas didn't make it. VHS went out. So, but there were two different ones. And then those were for movies. But cassette tapes, we loved these because you could actually tape what was on the radio. you could hit the button and hit record and tape what was on the radio and make your own homegrown tapes. So we love that. Oh my goodness. So that, you know, this is a very informal, the 1980s, this one's very informal. But I'm going to take this palette and use as some of my transition shade. And this is the Maybelline City Mini palette in Cocoa City. So that's what this one is. And I'm just going to go in to this shade right here as my transition and just lay down some of this color all over. Oh, and that's a pretty light shade, so I think I can take that all the way up to my brow bone. I really like the City Mini palettes. Oh, I think they're so good. I'm going into this really peachy color just because I want to give a little bit of color, because I've got a little bit of brown and yellow in this one that I'll use, so I'm just wanting a little bit of a different color. So I'm just going to take that into the crease as my transition shade. And it's a nice matte color too. And I'm just going to go underneath with that. I'm going to go into this shade right here and see if it's going to be dark enough, called Epic. These are only, these little Profusion palettes, these little 8-pan ones are just $5. They're really, really cheap. They come in like a blue and a pink and a yellow. Surprisingly, I think that's holding its pigment. It's holding its own. And I'm going to go all over the lid with that and just out to the V and up. So it's pretty light, but you can still at least tell that it's yellow. So that's okay. I'm going to go into Brow, which is a little bit deeper right here. So the 80s was also some time of really sad times too, because we had the Space Shuttle Challenger mishap, the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. That's the word I'm looking for, the disaster from the Space Shuttle Challenger. And that was probably one of the defining events of the 80s. Something that was just so sad, and so, I guess, one of those things that is one of the most memorable events of the 80s, because I guess each decade you have one of those events that, you know, just everybody's going to remember forever. And for me, that's that event. Maybe because I was in, well, it just is. That's just the event. Like in the 90s, I think it's the Twin Towers. In the 80s, it's the Challenger. I'm going to go in now with a little bit of a smaller brush, and I'm going to go into this darker brown color right here. They're letting a teacher go on this. I mean, who would have ever thought? They're letting this teacher go on this adventure. You know, she's really excited. Everybody, the whole entire United States population is so excited about this event happening. And then for this unfortunate event to occur, it was devastating to the entire nation. It was absolutely just horrific. It was just horrific. I mean, you just don't expect that to happen, but especially under those conditions. Yeah, I think that palette is working out pretty good. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this gold right here that's got this glitter on it. And I put this on my outer. I'm going into this headliner from the Profusion palette right here on the inner. And then I'll just go in with a brush and buff both of those together. I need a little bit more of this. As far as my eyes go, I think I'm pretty happy with that look. I just need to put on some eyebrows and some mascara. I'll be right back. I have no idea whether this looks anything like the 80s or not, but I am wearing more black under the eyes than normal. However, and I'm wearing a little bit more blush than maybe I would normally put on, but I love this look, and my hair is not my hair's really not fixed. So yeah, I really can't do the big hair thing because I don't have any layers in my hair. I don't really think I would be opposed to going back full-blown big hair to the 80s, but I would need a perm. I really would need a perm. I have to have my hair very damaged. I have to have bleach and perm to have enough damage texture to get my hair to be that big. So yeah, I would definitely, I remember I would get what we would call a body wave. It would be on purple and white rollers or either all purple perm rods. But I was also highlighting my hair. I would get it sun blitzed. Does anyone remember that? I would have my hair sun blitzed, which was basically, it was still bleach. So, yeah, but that came out, sun blitzing came out in the 80s. It was basically where it was bleach with a tone, bleach and tone. Oh my God. Yeah, through a cap. He did it on a cap. That was before full foil weaving was really popular. So yeah, that's how I have my hair highlighted, and I double processed because I also did perming. Lots of damage. Good texture. Yeah. And then, of course, you know, we had good old Reaganomics, and Nancy Reagan was spending money at the White House like crazy because she felt like that the White House needed to be updated because it really hadn't had a major overhaul since Jackie Kennedy had done that. Yeah, so I don't think anyone really praised her for that like we did Jackie. And of course, everyone knew her slogan, just say no, because the war on drugs through the Reagan administration was really beefed up, and that was Nancy's deal, just say no to drugs. So yeah, so that was going on during that time. So yeah, I rather like blush from the 80s. Didn't use a whole lot of contour back then, but we most definitely made up for it in blush, and I rather like it. So I like this look. I would rock this, and I don't know that it's so 80s looking, but I most certainly love it. I hope that you enjoyed the 80s decade. I guess it's not my favorite decade because I lived it so much, so it's not as fun for me as, say, the 60s, and I think what the 50s will be for me, because that is more of a travel back in time for me. But yeah, we will be doing next month the 90s, and I will be somewhat looking forward to that because that will be really the era of the supermodel. So that will be fun as well. So I hope that you liked this video. If you did, give us a big thumbs up for that. And don't forget to go over to my really good friend Queenie's channel and check out her look. We have had such a good time putting together these videos for you, and we hope that you're enjoying them. So until my next video, mwah, smooches everybody. Bye-bye. Till next time.